Welcome to CNN 10. Last Friday, we said it was scheduled to happen, and it happened. But even some Koreans say it's hard to believe. For the first time since fighting stopped in the Korean War in 1953, a North Korean leader stepped into South Korean territory. The historic summit between the two nations' leaders had been planned for weeks, and they made some potentially world-changing promises to completely get rid of nuclear weapons on the Korean peninsula, to call for a formal end to the war that started in 1950. According to South Korean President Moon Jae-in's office, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also promised to shut down his nuclear test site in May and invite experts and journalists from South Korea and the U.S. to come make sure it was closed. There is some controversy around that. Chinese scientists said last week that the test site had been so badly damaged in nuclear explosions that it might not be useful anymore. North Korea's dictator says that's not true, that parts of it are in very good condition. Either way, after all these apparent breakthroughs, analysts say there's plenty of reason to proceed cautiously. And U.S. President Donald Trump says that even though a meeting between him and North Korea's leader could happen in weeks, it's hard to predict how successful it'll be.
An extraordinary, dramatic walk and greeting. For the first time, Kim Jong-un steps over the military demarcation line into South Korea. Later, Kim talks about the gravity of that moment.
As I was stepping over it, I was thinking, why did it take so long, 11 years, to get to this historic moment? And why was it so difficult to come here?
Veteran Korea watchers say it's remarkable, given the tensions in this standoff not long ago, that this summit took place.
Just the fact that the leaders of North Korea and South Korea are talking and that nuclear and missile tests have stopped for now is a cause for optimism. The symbolism of this meeting is certainly important. Only a few short months ago, we were deeply concerned about armed hostility breaking out on the Korean peninsula. Now that threat has receded.
Kim and South Korean President Moon Jae-in set a goal of completely denuclearizing the Korean peninsula, a high hurdle, experts warn, because that has two different meanings for both sides. For the U.S. and South Korea, it means Kim completely dismantling his nuclear arsenal.
For North Korea, they want the U.S. to remove its troops from the Korean peninsula and to stop threatening North Korea with sanctions and to remove the sanctions.
Kim and Moon also pledged to bring a formal end to the Korean War, which will also be challenging, analysts say, because the U.S. and China would have to sign off on it, and because with the North Koreans, none of these deals come without a price.
The North Korean leadership doesn't hold summits unless they think they will get something for it in return. In some cases, it's literal cash. In other cases, it's concessions and political benefits. So Kim Jong-un almost certainly is going to be pushing for an end to sanctions.
But for now, the two leaders are basking in the imagery. Among the moments which stand out, Kim's departing limousine, flanked by running security agents, and Kim speaking candidly about transportation in his country.
It's more convenient to come by airplane. Our roads are uncomfortable. I know because I just came down here. I would greet you at the airport if you came by plane.
Moments that may not have unfolded, some analysts believe, if Kim hadn't been alarmed by President Trump's volatility and his tougher stance on North Korea.
There's been a lot more pressure placed on North Korea, and I do think that without the pressure that he has been willing to place, it's not at all clear that North Korea would have been willing to change its stance.
Another dramatic moment in the summit came when Kim Jong-un said that South and North Korea, quote, will be reunited as one country. Analysts warn that for Kim, that means one country under his rule, something South Korea and the United States would never accept. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
10-second trivia. Which of these events occurred on February 8, 1936? Gone with the Wind was published, Jesse Owens won his fourth Olympic gold, President Franklin Roosevelt was re-elected, or the first NFL draft was held? All of these events happened in 1936, but only the NFL draft was held on February 8th. At the National Football League's 83rd annual draft, held late last week, one of the many headlines concerned a player named Shaquem Griffin. The linebacker from the University of Central Florida lost his left hand at age 4. He had a rare condition called amniotic band syndrome. But that didn't stop him from becoming the American Athletic Conference's Defensive Player of the Year in 2016, and it didn't stop him from becoming a fifth-round draft pick Saturday by the Seattle Seahawks. The last and only other one-handed player to be drafted in NFL history was Ellis Jones in 1945. Shaquem will join his twin brother, Shaquille, who was drafted by the Seahawks last year. It's the first time that brothers were drafted by the same team since 2001. Football is America's most popular sport. In Brooklyn, a borough of New York City, Dr. Rob Gore is making headlines for something called the Kings Against Violence Initiative, or KAVI. He started it in 2009. It serves more than 250 young people through anti-violence programs in the Kings County Hospital Center, as well as schools and other places in the community. Dr. Gore is a CNN hero.
I don't like pronouncing people dead. It's probably the worst thing that I've ever had to do. Homicide is the #1 cause of death for black men ages 15 to 34. When I became an ER doc, my patients look just like me. I want to preserve life. If I can't keep somebody alive, I've failed. I grew up in Brooklyn. I got robbed when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and it scared me. Seeing a lot of the traumas that take place at work or in the neighborhood, you realize I don't want this to happen anymore. I started looking at violence as a public health problem. KAVI is a violence intervention program. Our first goal was just to create this hospital-based intervention for people who've been shot and stabbed.
We don't need to know who did it. That's not our role. We aren't police. What we're doing is being an advocate for the patient.
We want to make sure that they don't come back for repeat injuries. What's going on? I ain't seen you in a while. You been all right? Come on through. We created a KAVI school program to ensure that young people didn't become patients. How was the break? Where'd y'all go? This is prevention. So what's been going on in the world? We had a shooting just up the street from here. If it's something that another brother did or something that a cop did, how do you feel about that?
When I hear things like that, feel me, like, it makes me feel like it could happen to me too.
We do weekly workshops that focus on restorative justice, conflict resolution, and mediation. It's a support group.
It kind of puts fear in my heart because, like, what do we do?
Conflict's not avoidable, but violent conflict is. Is it always gonna be, oh, yo, I ain't got nothing to do with it. But then all of a sudden it takes place on your block with your cousin. What is it that you can actually do?
Back in the day, everybody would use their fists to fight, but now everything is situated around guns. There's other ways to solve problems.
We want to make sure they can learn how to process, deal with it, and overcome it.
Growing up, I had problems with violence. When you're big, you become a target for people. And the only way that I knew how to deal with it was to retaliate.
How many of y'all are graduating?
KAVI has taught me that you don't have to be angry all the time, ready to fight all the time. The change that I made, like, in my life is crazy. My mentality back then was like, okay, like, if I put on this tough guy persona, like, you know, nobody was gonna wanna mess with me. But now it's like, I know it's cool to be yourself now.
I see y'all going to college. This is good. This is why we do this stuff. Just because you graduated doesn't mean that we finished with you. We're proud of you, man. This is good stuff. The goal is to bring out their best selves.
I'm really excited about my future.
This is really about the community in which we live. This is my home, and I'm gonna do whatever is possible to make sure people can actually thrive.
There's fine art, portrait art, sofa art, sidewalk art, and then there's coffee art, which is always in great taste. Whether it's a European masterwork or something for the birds, South Korean barista Kangbin Lee continues to serve up beverages that look too good to drink. At around $10 each, these coffee cup creations cost a little more than the average Joe, and they take about 15 minutes longer to prepare. But if you can coffee up the dough, you'll easily agree it's worth the cafe-o wait. In fact, coffee and art aficionados would say it's worth dopio the price to watch someone mocha something so expressonable and makes you forgot all about the price. If you're looking at the time, you see now, we've got to go. We'll stock up on more news and puns tomorrow.